All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today for our South Central Illinois Continuum of Care Point in Time training. I see a lot of familiar names on here as well as some new ones. So I will try and go through all the acronyms and kind of give some good detail on that. If there is something that you don't understand or I don't explain well, please feel free to come off mute and ask questions throughout the training or put them in the chat either way, okay? So thank you all for joining. We'll get started. So welcome and introductions. My name is Jess Pauley. I am the COC's HMIS lead. I'm a consultant that also works on some of the COC side. For those of you who may not know, COC stands for Continuum of Care. And basically, that's just a group of providers across the middle section of Illinois who work together to help those that are homeless. Okay, that's what we do. Some housekeeping things. We are recording this webinar, so if you have any questions about anything, you want to go back and review it, feel free to do that. Also, if you plan on using any volunteers for your point in time count and they weren't able to join you today, that's 100% fine. You can share this recording with them or any staff members who maybe weren't able to attend today. Feel free, if you need to use the restroom, take a phone call, whichever you do, go ahead and do that. Just make sure you're on mute. I'm not hearing any feedback right now, so you guys are great on that. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. So point in time count or PIT count, what is it? So COCs, our continuum of care, is required by HUD. HUD is our federal funding source. It stands for Housing and Urban Development. And they require us to conduct a point in time count or a PIT count of homeless persons in our geographic area. HUD mandates that we do this count every 2 years. Our COC actually mandates that we do it every year. So that's why we're counting. After we've collected all this data, then we have to submit it to our funding source through their website. And why it's important is our funding levels are somewhat dependent on how many people that we count. So it's important to make sure that we get everybody that in the area that we can count that's homeless, to make sure to show our funding source how many funds we need to serve those individuals. So you may be asking, what can I do first? What can I do now to kind of get ready for this PIT count? We ask that you contact local agencies that you know of that give hotel vouchers. So it could be churches, maybe townships, SSVF, the VA, any of those places that you know, hey, they've given vouchers in the past for people to stay at hotels. Please reach out to them and let them know that you will be contacting them during the point in time count to get some information from them. We also recommend that you contact local law enforcement for 2 reasons. The first reason is that during the night of the point in time count, it's important to let law enforcement officials know that you'll be out canvassing and driving around looking for homeless individuals. That way, in case anybody reports that as a, potentially a suspicious vehicle or something, they kind of have an idea what's going on. We also recommend that you do that so that if they have any homeless individuals that they're aware of, they can let you know and we can get them counted. Number 3 is to directly contact the local hotels in your area that you know house homeless individuals or have in the past to let them know that you'll be contacting them on the day of the PIT. And then number 4 is to review PIT logs for locations to visit during the point in time count. So in the past, we've used different logs to record areas to count kind of as a checklist to be able to do. Cindy, do you know if you still have those from last year for your counties, or is that kept in county? How does that work for you guys?
It is, I think most of them sent it in, so I do have copies of them if they still need them, if they
Awesome.
didn't keep a copy themselves.
Okay, perfect. So if you guys need a copy of that, reach out to Cindy. She'll give you a copy of what your county was counted last year, kind of as a starting point. Just like last year, we will also be completing that risk factors form. So at the end of our presentation, I'll actually show you these documents and we can kind of answer some questions then as well. But this risk factor form is actually given to hotel operators or churches or whoever is dealing with those first-time homeless individuals. It gives us some qualitative data about what they're seeing as to what's causing individuals to be homeless. So it's been really helpful in the past to kind of help us update our, procedures and policies and stuff, and also to make sure that we understand what's going on with those in our communities. And after you've completed those risk factors forms, or after they've been given back to you from those hotel operators, please just give them to Cindy and she'll make sure that I get all the forms. Point in time changes since last year. As you guys know, HUD kind of does a little update every year around this point in time count. There were 2 areas that really have changed with the data collection. So the first one deals with the gender field on the data collection. Now there are checkboxes where you need to mark all that apply. So there are several different gender options that you can choose, and please mark all that apply. And then the second thing is that the race and ethnicity fields have actually been combined. So they are now one field, and again, check all that apply for that one as well. Okay. For the sheltered individuals, so that's people that are actually in the hotels or they're in one of your projects. Maybe they've got some of your ETH funding or what have you. Those individuals do not have to have a PIT form filled out as long as they're already in your HMIS system enrolled in that project. So for those individuals, I will just go into the HMIS system and I will pull that data directly from there. Same thing with all of your clients that are maybe in rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing. We are able to see all that information when we go in there to the HMIS. So no need to fill out forms on them. All right, so in preparation for the count, make sure that you have enough copies of your PIT survey. Make sure that you have those ready for you to be able to hand out to those individuals who are surveying. The second thing we recommend is to make a copy of your PIT log, update anything that you need to, maybe new places to count if you have thought of some new ones, and then kind of make a plan as to who is going to be counting in what areas and when. The reason for this is because we do not want to duplicate any individuals. So we want to try and make sure that we're not just counting the same area multiple times and the people are getting reported on multiple forms. So this is a new slide. Our COC actually works with a group of individuals who have lived expertise. So these individuals have been homeless in their past, and they recommended that we put this slide in here. Cultural competency is defined as a set of values, behaviors, attitudes, and practices within a system that enables individuals to work cross-culturally effectively. So what that means is please be respectful of people's boundaries. Of course, be kind to everyone, but also if someone's uncomfortable with a question, please just skip it. Do not push any questions. Do not make anybody feel uncomfortable for any of the survey questions. And second, please be mindful of an individual's privacy. So say, for instance, you found 3 individuals that were staying in an abandoned building. Please ask that individual if they would feel more comfortable talking to you away from their group. And then if so, go over to a separate area, just because they may not want their business talked about in front of everyone. Another thing that came from our lived expertise work group is this gaining consent. So it's very, very important that we always gain consent before we start surveying, talking to clients, all of those things. So we've done 3 different ways. First, be kind, treat them with respect. Second, explain why we're counting and what we're doing and the importance behind that. And then for the third part of that, ask the individual if they would be able to answer our questions. If they say no, say, okay, thank you, and just walk away. You can then fill out a PIT form with just the things that you've noticed or what information you have, and then where the client is located, as well as any kind of identifying features, such as like what color coat they were wearing, if they were in a tent, etc. That will help us not duplicate our count, but also make sure that we're getting as detailed as we can, but also being as respectful as we can to those individuals. So during the count, safety is the first priority. Please keep yourself safe, your staff safe, your volunteers, whoever, please be safe. Do not go anywhere alone. We recommend that you always count in at least groups of 2. If you feel more comfortable wearing a mask or social distancing, please do so. Whatever makes you feel most comfortable and most safe, please do those things. The second thing is if you see someone who is sleeping, please do not wake them up. We don't want to scare anybody. We don't want to potentially put you in harm's way. So if somebody's sleeping, please just write down the information that you have on them. Do not wake them up, okay? And number three, remember to always treat each individual with dignity and respect. They may be without homes, but they're still very much humans with feelings, and we should treat them as such. The counting starts with the point in time survey form. So we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. Please make sure to write legibly. Okay. If you are someone who has been told that you have messy handwriting in the past, please use block letters or whatever you need to do to make sure that we can read it. And then on every form, there's a section at the top, which I'll show you here in a minute. Please make sure that you write your agency, the county that you're in, the region that you're in, and then your name for who's completing that form. The reason for that is because once these get compiled, our COC covers 18 counties. So essentially we're getting information from 18 different counties. And so it can get mixed up and pages can get pulled apart and all of that. So please make sure that you just write legibly on the top of every single form. We did simplify the form by keeping the check boxes on there so it's easier for you guys to mark on. So that's still the same from last year. And then also, please bring information for these homeless individuals on how to contact the coordinated entry access points. So if you have someone that you find that's homeless, please also be able to provide them information with how to call your offices and how to kind of get on that completed diversion tool and get some help as well.
Diane just asked the question of what region are we? We are the central region.
Good question.
Also, if I can add, it would be wise, I believe, to have business cards on hand with you when you're going out to do the count, so that you can say, hey, please, feel free to come and contact us, or what the business hours are, the address and the telephone number maybe as well. It doesn't have to be your specific card, but and in fact, maybe I'll have Pam just make up some generic, just county cards to give out on that day.
Okay. And then it looks like Amy had a question. Are we South Central? So you guys are the central region. The whole COC is called South Central, but if you put South Central in there, I'll know. As long as you put that CEFS, I'll figure it out. So that will be fine, Amy. Any other questions before we continue? Okay, so here's a list of the questions that are on the actual survey form. We'll walk through that together and I'll show you kind of how they're lined up on there, so it'll be a little bit easier to see. So we will skip this slide for now. Okay, this is very important and I always get questions on this. So if someone is staying in a hotel and that hotel is being paid for by the Methodist Church, okay, then we need to make sure we also fill out information on the church or on whoever is providing that hotel stay, whoever's paying for it. The things that we need to have. So the name of the agency or the church, so maybe First United Methodist, the address of the church or the agency, a contact name and phone number for somebody that if I have any questions about the data, I can reach out to the church or the agency and get that information. And then any towns that that agency serves. So this could be a little bit different depending on the agency. So if it's like the SSBF and they cover multiple counties, put the counties on there. If it's just a church that serves one town, just put the one town on there. So that part can be kind of flexible depending on the agency. This will be listed in the section that says sponsor information. So I'll show you that here in a minute as well, but that's some more detail about that. The other biggest question we get is about the chronically homeless questions. So there is one section on the PIT survey about chronically homeless. So the two things you need to realize about people that are chronically homeless. Number one, they must have a disability. If they don't have a disability, the answer for the chronic homeless questions is no. So that's an easy way to kind of mark that off if they don't have a disability. The second part of it gets a little wordy and a little complicated, but what we're trying to figure out is, has this individual been homeless for a year's time, 12 months in the past 3 years? So the way that that's worded is two different ways. The first part of that, so chronically homeless question number one, would be, have you slept in any of the locations listed, which they're on there is like abandoned buildings, outside, those things. So have you been homeless every night for the past year? So for the last calendar year, have you been homeless? Okay. The second part of that talks about if they've been homeless a total of 4 or more times. So they could be homeless and then maybe they found housing. Then they got homeless again, or they became homeless again. They kind of went back and forth. So 4 times of going back and forth at least in the past 3 years, totaling 12 months. So again, we're just looking at that. Have they been homeless for 12 months in the last 3 years? Okay. Are there any questions on that? I know it's wordy. I hate how that HUD words that, and we always have, sometimes we have some questions on that. Okay, great. So yeah, so on that part though, remember, if they're not disabled, don't even worry about trying to figure out all of those pieces. If they answer no for disability, then you can just skip that whole question. Okay, so schedule of the count. Our count is counting on the day of January 24th. Ideally, we're trying to get anywhere from like noon that day till almost noon the other day, the next day. But we are looking for where they are sleeping on the night of January 24th. Okay, so if you speak to somebody at maybe 7 p.m. that night, where are you sleeping tonight? Where, what's the plan? If it's the morning after, so it's on the 25th, where did you sleep last night? Okay. The thing with HUD too is they allow us to count for up to 7 days after. So say that you did your point in time count on the 24th and you're back in the office, and then maybe on the 26th, on that Friday, you have somebody come in who's homeless and they complete a diversion tool. You can ask them where they slept on the night of the 24th, and then you can go ahead and fill out a form for them. Okay, so up to 7 days after you can fill out that form, but make sure that you're asking where they slept on the night of the 24th. We also need to make sure that people count or contact your local churches, agencies to see if they've provided any hotel stays throughout that day. And then also we talked about schedule. So we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so Cindy, I need the forms back from you by February 10th. When would you like everybody to get the forms to you?
All right, I'm looking at the calendar. February 10th is on a Saturday, just so you know.
Okay.
So you might want them back by the 9th. I would like to have them all by no later than the 7th, February 7th.
And then did you want to talk I know you probably do, each region does their schedules a little bit differently with that. Do you want to talk about how that you guys canvas, or you want to talk about that later offline with your staff? I didn't know if there's anything you want to say about that.
I mean, really, I leave it up to each county to set their own schedule, and to, find the volunteers if you can. So it's always just kind of been up to each county on how they schedule their canvassing. So
Awesome. So if you have any questions about that, reach out directly to Cindy. If you have any, I think the next slide is my contact information. So if you have any questions like data wise or whatever, feel free to reach out to me. This is my cell phone. You guys have my email address as well, but any specific like canvassing questions or stuff like that, reach out to Cindy directly and she can help you with that. All right. Does anybody have any questions on anything before we review the two tools? Okay, so let me get them pulled up for you. Okay, so this tool is the actual survey tool. You will fill one of these out for every household that you come across. Okay, there are spots for 4 different individuals. If you have a household that may be bigger than that, go ahead and just fill out 2 forms and then attach them together. It's completely fine.
Jess,
Yes, ma'am.
quick question. In
Yeah.
your example that you provided earlier with maybe there's 3 people in an abandoned building,
Okay.
are you going to count if they are not family members, you're counting each of them as individuals, so they each, or as a household?
Good question. So that will just depend, I guess, on the individuals. If they are reporting as 3 separate individuals, yes, 3 separate forms. If they are a household, if they, I mean, whatever that composition may be, if they are self-reporting as a household, then you could do it as that. So you kind of just have to ask them in that case. Good question. Any other questions so far? Okay. So on the survey tool, you guys will notice at the top there, it has those lines for you to fill out for yourself. If you have a household that has multiple pages, so maybe they've got 2 separate pages or 3 separate pages, please fill this out for each one. And you can also put maybe page 1 of 1 or 1 of 2, how many ever pages they have to kind of help us keep it all together. On here where it talks about type of location where the individuals are sleeping. So please be as descriptive and specific as you can. That way it can help us not duplicate the count as well. So for instance, if somebody's sleeping outdoors, okay, you would mark the checkbox that says outdoors and then where. So if it's the park in Effingham, please put the park on there. Maybe even, by the bench, by the entrance of the park in Effingham, or however that's whatever you can think of to make it as descriptive as possible, please do so. If there's an option that you doesn't really fit in any of the other options, just click other and put or mark other and describe that for me there. On the far right, it talks about sponsor information. That's about the hotel or the agency, or I'm sorry, that's about the agency or the church or whoever is providing a hotel stay. So that would be where you would fill that out. Okay, so how many people are observed staying together? So this kind of goes with Cindy's question. If they are reporting together as a household, you could put them all in the same form. If it's 3 individuals that are just sleeping in the same area and they are separate, they are not part of the same household, go ahead and fill out 3 different forms. Okay. All right, so each of these boxes will be filled out for each individual. Let's see if I can get it all fit on one screen. Okay, so person 1. This should be your head of household, okay? That way it'll keep it kind of the easiest way to track it for us. So say you come across an individual that has 2 children with them. The adult will need to be person 1, and then the children would be the following after that. Put their name on the first line. If they do not feel comfortable reporting their name, that's fine. Initials is fine. If they don't want to even report initials, that's fine. It's completely self-reported and what they're comfortable with, okay? Same thing with date of birth. We are trying to find out how old they are. So if they don't feel comfortable giving you their date of birth, maybe ask what birth year they had, things like that, or just how old they are and put that in there, okay? You can be a little flexible in that. The next box talks about best way to contact. So if it's phone number, email, whichever that is, put that there, and then contact info, that phone number or email address would go there. Gender, this is a box that has changed since last year, remember, so check all that apply. So there could be multiple options there. Veteran, yes or no is next to that. Substance abuse is under that. And that can just be a history of substance abuse. It doesn't necessarily have to mean they have substance abuse issues right now. Race and ethnicity, this is one that's also changed over last year's form. You will see that those are now combined. So mark all that apply there. Next to that is HIV/AIDS, serious mental health issue. And then you'll come down to household information. So we are at person 1, so this should be the self, the head of household, the HOH. And then from then on, everybody else's household information will be directly related to that first person. So if the child is person number 2, they're going to be the head of household's child, etc. Okay. Your chronic homeless questions are next. So remember, if they have no disability, go ahead and mark no. If they do, or if they are disabled or have a disability, then go ahead and talk to them about how long they've been homeless. And we're trying to see if it's been 12-month period within the last 3 years. Okay. If they've been homeless for a total of 12 months altogether, straight through for the past year, that's chronic 1. If they've had 4 different times where they maybe found housing and then lost housing and found housing and lost housing, that'll be chronic number 3. Under that is homeless due to DV. So is their homeless situation directly related to domestic violence? And the one under that is adult survivor of domestic violence. And then you'll see the disability question there underneath that. And then the other boxes are they're just copied from the other one. So exactly the same. Okay. Are there any questions on the survey tool? All right. Crystal says, if we fill out 2 or more forms for a household, do you want the entire top portion filled out again as well? Yes, please, Crystal. That would be super helpful. Just in case the pages get mixed up when we're scanning them over or when we're reviewing the data. So yes, please.
But just add like page 1 of 2 and page 2 of 2 on the
Yes.
very top, so we know that household is together.
Yes, that would be very helpful. Great question. Are there any other questions on the actual survey tool itself? Okay. So we will go to the risk factors form. So this form is what you will bring with you to give to those hotel operators or maybe the church if you're talking to them about putting somebody in a hotel. The information we're trying to gather from here is what they are seeing on kind of that front line of homeless individuals that are homeless for the first time. Okay, so there's only 5 questions. They're pretty simple questions, but we'll walk through them too in case anybody has questions. Number 1, on average, how many homeless individuals do you have who entered your facility each month? Number 2, of these homeless individuals, how many do you believe are homeless for the first time? Number 3, for these first-time homeless individuals, what reasons do they say caused them to become homeless? And this is one that they can check all that apply. There's probably multiple things that they're reporting. Number 4, what would you say is the biggest reason for these homeless individuals finding housing and getting back on their feet? So this is worded kind of weird, but what are the biggest barriers to their stability? Is a better way to say that too. What's causing them an issue to get to stable housing? And then the last question is, where do you refer homeless persons to for assistance when they have housing needs? Okay.
Hey, just
Yes,
to
ma'am.
clarify, you said like the hotel operators. You're not actually saying give these to the hotels to fill out, but more of who's providing that voucher, the agency providing that voucher to fill
Yeah,
out. Is
right.
that correct?
Yes, it can be both actually. So,
Okay.
because the hotel operators may be seeing some as well that were not paid for by that specific agency. So feel free to talk to the hotels directly as well. And also, if you guys are frontline staff, feel free to fill this out as well. So we're just looking for those that kind of touch base with the homeless individuals for the first time, and they're kind of that frontline defense with them. So your input would be important as well if you guys have input on that too. Okay, any questions on the risk factors form? All right, well, that is all that I have for you. Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions? All right, thanks, guys. I will go ahead and stay on a couple minutes if anybody has anything they don't want to ask in front of everybody. I will also send this out to Cindy. So Cindy, feel free to go ahead and forward the recording on to everybody who needs it. And just feel free to share this with any volunteers or any other staff that may not have been able to watch.
Great. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks, guys. Oh, okay.
Diane just asked if you can explain chronic 1 and 3 again.
Yes, ma'am. So chronic 1 would be somebody who was homeless for 12 months consecutively. So they became homeless, say, in January of 2023. So last year, and they have not found stable housing the entire last year. Okay, they've been homeless for 12 consecutive months. That's chronic 1. Chronic 3 is somebody who maybe back in 2021, they had a couple months where they were homeless, maybe 3 months, and then they found housing. And then maybe at the end of 2021, they became homeless again. Kind of did that yo-yo back and forth. But by the end of it, by today, they have been homeless for a total of 12 months, but in the past 3-year period. Okay, does that explain it a little bit better, Diane? Okay, no problem. And if you have somebody that you're not sure, and you think they might be chronic 3, but you're not sure, go ahead and you can just write a little note in that note section too, and put the dates that they were homeless in, and then I can help figure that out for you too. So don't stress about that part if you've got somebody that's kind of been homeless multiple times and all of that. So. And Margot asks, but they have to have a disability, right? Yes. Yep, that's correct. So if they don't have a disability or disabling condition, you don't have to worry about the chronic questions at all. You can just skip them. But if somebody does have a disability, then you try and figure out if they qualify for chronic status.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that they marked yes to substance abuse or mental health
Right.
on
Right.
those questions. If they say yes, they have a disability.
Right. Right. And you don't have to be able to see the disability. It doesn't have to be something that you can actually verify. It is all self-reported. So that's true for any of the questions on the survey tool. Good questions, guys. Thanks for being so engaged. All right. Well, I will go ahead and stay on if anybody has any other questions, but I will get this recording out to Cindy today. Let me know if you guys have any other questions or comments about any of the point in time count stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. It
No
was very
problem,
helpful,
lady.
I think. And two, you can always reach out. I think I've got a fairly good knowledge of the point in time and chronic homelessness and all of that as well. So anyways, yes, just feel free to ask any questions, and I'm going to go ahead and log off. But thank you, Jess, for the training.
No problem. Thanks, Cindy.